Welcome to the Underground.
Turn me up, bitch!
My Little Underground with Peter A.
It's My Little Underground. I'm Peter A. Make sure you're subscribed anywhere you get podcasts. And be sure to follow me on socials at MLU Pod. You can also support the show for as little as $1 a month. Link in the description and over at peteraradio.com. Today on the show, we have my brothers, Smiley and Rich. We're going to talk about 20 years of one of our favorite games ever, Crash Bandicoot, the Wrath of Cortex. This is the first game in the Crash Bandicoot series that was on the PlayStation 2. And when we got our PS2 in 2002, 19 years ago, Wrath of Cortex came with the collection that we got, and that was the first game we put into play. And 20 years later, we're still playing it, and we're still talking about it. And we just kind of talked about how it weighs up against other Crashes and how it's kind of underrated amongst the other games in the series. Talking 20 years of Crash Bandicoot, Wrath of Cortex with my brothers here on My Little Underground. Yes, sir. Smiley Arriaga. Richie's here too. We're going to talk about 20 years of Crash Bandicoot, Wrath of Cortex, the first Crash on PlayStation 2, and later on GameCube and Xbox. So, we're just going to get right to the meat of it. So when we first wrapped it out of the plastic 19 years ago to play it on PS2, the first PS2 game we ever played, when you're a kid playing this, what's your first reaction to this game?
Well, if I could say, first off, there's a learning curve to these games, and you find out real quick. It's not easy, but I feel like it's very rewarding. A lot of fun playing the games, a lot of frustration, but when you get like the mechanics and you learn the game, it becomes like a challenge. You want to win, you want to get to the next level and stuff like that.
Like, honestly, even before I started the game, I was like, as a kid, I was amazed. Wait a minute, you can customize the name of your file in the menu. Like,
yeah,
it was very like, like in arcade games, when you complete a level, you customize your initials, and you do that in the game. But this game, like, you can customize the name of your file from the get-go.
Yeah,
I thought that was, and like the music in the first level, the music of the game was like one of the first things that really, like, in every level, like every level has like a lot of the songs are very like rhythm, like kind of dancey almost, but like each level has like its own distinct music, which I really loved.
Yeah, and I think I kind of mirror what Rich was saying about the learning curve, because the game starts you off with 4 lives, right? But then after you get used to the nooks and crannies of the game, like, I just played it, again, I already have like 30 lives, you know what I mean? But like, when we first played it as a kid, the first few levels, you're like, damn, game over, gotta start over again. Oh my God, I only have 2 lives left. Now I gotta, work my way up again. Make sure I get, okay, how many Wampa fruit do I have till I get to the next life? But yeah, I think, just kind of learning the game, and especially when you're running away from all the big monsters, like the dragon in the first elemental mask hub world. You have to run away from the dragon. You have to figure out how to make sure that he can't catch up to you. Do I have to get all the crates right now? I just have to survive.
I tried to get everything I tried to get every crate, including the nitro crates. And I kept wondering, I'm trying to get these crates, but I keep dying. Why can't I get these crates without dying? And
I'll never forget the first time you're going throughout the level, you're trying to get all the crates, and you start to realize, oh, every one of these crates, you could break them open. So then you learn that you take damage by, hitting a TNT. But the first time you try to hit a nitro crate and try to collect it that way, you learn real quick. You're like, okay, all right, that's not something we do. There has to be a strategy here. I like that. I like how the game is built.
Can we appreciate how, like, all the different ways Crash can literally, like, die?
He goes through a lot.
The death animations are just, you get frustrated for like, God damn it, I died again. But you die laughing when he turns into shoes, or he turns into ash.
Yes.
Or he just like turns into like a piece of paper and he's floating in the air.
Like every time he like falls off a cliff, like he falls, but his shoes like fly up in the air.
Yeah, it's great. Like, it's hysterical.
Oh,
and his eyes are in his shoes.
It's great.
Oh yeah, no, like when you get blown up by a nitro crate sometimes, like, you're right. You just see his eyeballs in his shoes. His shoes are in perfect condition, and his eyeballs.
Yeah, he goes, whoa! It's hysterical. I love it.
Yeah, this game's insane. And like I love how like I cut you off.
No, go ahead.
No, I like I don't want to like spoil the whole thing, but like the way like you progressively unlock powers throughout the game is pretty insane.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later. But I want to talk about one of the things that really frustrated me with this game. You know, it's still to this day the goddamn load times. Each level that you go to, you gotta watch Crash float into the abyss, and then every time on the screen where it says loading, I counted like 10 times. That's when I know then it's done loading. But there was no bar on the bottom. But that was the worst part about this game, at least on the PS2 version. On the Xbox and GameCube version, he just floats down like 3 seconds and then that's it. But I don't know. What do you guys think about the load times in this game?
Yeah, it is like a platformer, so I feel like it's not open world. So all these crazy things in the level, it takes time to load. So every time you go into a level, you have to like wait. It's like a portal. But what I did notice is, especially in games like Wrath of Cortex, they make up for that loading time with like these cutscenes where they can be kind of like wacky and like, cartoony, but it kind of sets up like, what you're going to be doing in the level. Or like before boss fights, it was always like a new like dialogue that was happening while you're waiting to get into the level. So yeah, there is a lot of downtime in between levels, which, I just think is one of those things that happened in like PlayStation 2 games, but it is kind of nice to look back on like the evolution, of the games. Because when you watch those videos, I looked up a video on YouTube, like the evolution of Crash Bandicoot. You sort of forget that there were loading times because it's just cutting to the next game, and you see like how far the technology has come, from now to then.
I don't know. I feel like I'm part of a rare breed of people. I have no problem with like I've never had a big problem with loading screens in games, like specifically the games that had engaging loading screens like Wrath of Cortex. Like I actually loved seeing Crash fall through the portal because it was a cool way to transition, because like he's going through a warp portal. Like I did like the Xbox version loading screens as well, because like it was different, because like the camera kind of floated around him as opposed to just one fixed position, which was interesting. And plus Xbox, they had quicker loading times, obviously. But yeah, I don't know.
It was a computer.
Well, yeah. I mean, I did actually like the PS2 loading screens. I actually like that. I love the sound of the warp portal. It did get kind of repetitive. For some people, I can understand if it gets repetitive. But I actually thought it added a lot of character to the game.
Yeah, at least it was creative.
Yeah, it was creative, and the thing is with in regards to like Mario 64, you jump into the painting and then you hear the music, da-da-ba-ba-da-ba, then you go right into it. Then you pick the star, whatever star you need to get, you have to select it, and then you're right in there. And this is N64. So with Wrath of, I like the idea. It's like you're going into a different hub world and you see Crash floating down. It's like a continuity thing, which is cool, but I just thought it was like a little bit too long for my taste. So in regards to, I guess now looking back and playing other Crashes, the difficulty of this game, and I think again, we were kids when we started playing this game, so it's like it was a little challenge for people like us, but like years later playing it again and again, and it's still great, and then playing the original Crashes 1, 2, 3, it's not even fair to even Twin Sanity was way harder than this, and the
Twin
first
Sanity is harder than a lot of these.
Yeah, it's way harder. It's way more challenging. So what do you guys think about the difficulty of this game looking back?
I definitely think the difficulty is what characterizes each game, because I'm looking back and I'm thinking Crash Bandicoot does so much with just the jump and a spin. Then you have to learn how to do everything and how to like get out of the way, like of danger, how to get up, how to get over, and by the time you reach like the end of the game, you're sort of a master at all those things. But yet it's hard. I feel like it's something that you're not really going to get until like your 40th try. Like, okay, now I know this thing's going to blow up in my face if I try to jump at it, so you learn it as you go along. But Twin Sanity was like, I feel like it just took the Crash game and just put it on a different level. I was talking to Michael earlier about that level when you're sledding on top of Cortex, and it's just a whole gag. Like you think
about that all the time. I always think about that.
I always feel bad. Like the more time I spend on this level, the more pain I'm putting him through. So
good. Hey, he's a jerk. Like I don't know. Like with the difficulty in the Crash Bandicoot games, like I always thought like it really it did like it contextualized the gameplay. because like seeing Crash get murdered the way he does, like it makes sense. Like a game like it challenges you would do that, especially if you go throughout the level once without if you like. There's a special feature in the game, like each level, if you go throughout the level without dying, you get like you unlock a different route, like a death route that would make it even hard, like add even more death traps. So I thought like that element of the game, it added a scare factor to the game. It was also kind of funny because Crash is like such like an adorable creature and he goes through all this crazy stuff.
Yeah, the death routes, like in Wrath of Cortex specifically, the base level would be fine, the varying difficulty, but when you unlock the death route, it's even sometimes borderline impossible. It's ridiculous. Yeah. It's like you have to get all the power-ups after you beat the game and go back to try to get the gems from the death route, but it's like it's ridiculous, especially if you have like, and if you lose a life in the death route, you lose a life, so you can get a game over from the death route, and
I love it's unpredictable. I've always loved that.
High risk, high reward.
Yeah, exactly. And the one thing about the death routes is if it's say if you got a checkpoint and you started a death route, you can, the death routes were so hard is that when you beat it, you can beat the level, but the problem is you have to go back and get the crystal. You have to go back. Yeah. So
or the gem, or like the different, like it's like I think you need to get every single crate to get the gem. Because there's the crystal and the gem.
There's the silver gems and there's the color gems. The color gems you get
that's right.
from the death routes. But you have to get the crystal to to progress through the game. You have to get all 30 of them. So
that was the main collectible.
Yeah, exactly. Or 25. It's 25 in Wrath of Cortex. But yeah, the death routes definitely added a huge layer of difficulty to this game, even though it wasn't as hard as the other ones.
Like the difficult. I'm sorry to cut you off.
Go ahead.
The difficulty of this game, like it never made me feel like the game was like broken. It was like every time I died, I was like, damn it, like it was my fault.
Yep.
Like, so I didn't mind the difficulty.
Don't hate the player, hate the game.
Exactly. The level design. I'm curious to see what you guys thought. I think the level design in Wrath of Cortex was gorgeous, even for 2001. The color scheme was beautiful, and like that I like. The thing with me is like when I go through like a difficult level, it's more like, okay, I want to progress through the game, but I also want to see what the next level looks like, because they just all looked gorgeous. Even some of the this one level, I think it's called Avalanche, and it's a snowy level. And it's beautiful. It almost like turns into SSX, because I think you play as Coco in one of the levels too. I think, it's a Coco level. But yeah, so what do you guys think of the level design in Wrath of Cortex?
I'm right there with you. Wrath of Cortex, I think one of my favorite levels is Bamboozled, because the entire level you're in like a hamster ball and you still have to go through the level. So if you going down a hill, like, and you pick up speed and you fly off the map, like you got to do it again. It's one of those things, but it's fun because it's different, And I'm thinking like I'm playing a platformer game and usually I'm jumping, I'm flipping, and now I have to like be in this ball and try to get through the level that way. I remember being a lot, like it was a lot of fun to learn how to do that, but then it doesn't necessarily carry on to the next level. So every level you may get a bunch of different hazards, different ways to finish, and also like different ways to flourish. It's kind of like, it's fun. It doesn't stay the same. It keeps you guessing,
I might be confusing the levels, but like that snow level where Coco had the snowboard, I think it's different from the level where it's another snow level where Crash is in a ball and he's in this weird maze.
Yeah.
Like both of those levels were like totally different. Like every level in this game was just so distinct from one another.
Yep. Yeah. Even 20 years later, it still holds a high standard. There's a lot of games now that don't have that level of, unique level design.
Very few.
Yeah. Speaking of, I brought up the Coco levels. What do you guys think of playing as Coco in this game? And the idea is, like in the later ones, you can choose whether you want to play a level as Coco or Crash. In Wrath of Cortex, there's some Coco only levels. So what do you guys think of that? The idea of playing as Coco and the idea that you can't choose between Crash and Coco on certain levels.
I always thought it was interesting when you introduce like a new character, because you're playing as Crash and then you go into this other level and then you switch, and so you're like, oh, who am I playing as now? Like, are they a team? Are they working together? And then you sort of figure out like what they're doing, because the cutscenes tell the story, but then also you see that there are some levels that maybe there are things that only Coco can do or things that only Crash can do, and it's kind of cool when it switches randomly and you kind of just like go with it. But in terms of like just being able to switch between the two, I definitely think Coco and Crash could handle the levels like the same way. It's kind of just really cool that you can play as different characters. Too bad you can't play as the mask, because then you wouldn't have to really do much. You just get collected and then shine for a little bit and then go away. But it is fun to have multiple characters.
I thought there really like subtle differences between playing as Crash and Coco. Like, for example, Coco, Crash, like when you run around and slide, you can pretty much slide anywhere. Coco, whenever she does her her slide move, is this, she kind of gets on the floor and then does like a trip kick. So like those are, but other than that, really they're playing as them are like kind of like the same. I did like how she had her own levels, because like I think some of her levels specifically were probably the hardest. Or like, there are some levels where you completely miss stuff, like miss certain collectibles, like they go right over your head when you complete them again, when you do those levels again, like, oh, how did I miss that? Like I thought there wasn't a death route in one of her levels, but there is, but you just miss it completely. Like if you go through the level very like if you kind of just like bamboozle your way through the level. But yeah, I do like how she has her own levels.
Yeah, I actually, from a level design perspective and from a gameplay perspective, the Coco levels are cool. But I think I don't know. I don't remember if Coco gets Crash's powers. Like if you get double jump as Crash, does Coco get it too? I don't remember.
You do. Yeah. She actually does have because I actually was looking at a speed run of like the secret warp room that you unlock at the end of the game.
Yeah.
Like you get like a secret bunch of levels, and one of them is a Coco level, and she does her double. And you can do her double jump if you have it with Crash.
Yeah. And Richie brought up Bamboozled, and Crash is kind of like in a super monkey ball type of hamster wheel. What do you guys think of that? Because I just played the boss battle with Crunch, when you're kind of in a Roman Coliseum thing, and you're in a ball. You have to get all the rocks to get the blue color before Crunch hits them all. And so what do you guys think of that, playing as Crash in a ball?
It's fun. It looks like fun. Like it kind of makes it want to like get in one and see what it would be like. I know people like play soccer like that, but it changes the game, because now you can move faster, or like you can like run through things, or like it changes the game, but it also makes it easier to, get a gutter ball and like fall off the map. Because whenever you introduce a mechanic in a Crash game, there's always a way to like counter it, so you get like a cool thing, but then here's this thing that can like go wrong if you misuse it. So it looks like fun. I'm sure Crash is having a good time, but would I do the same thing? I don't know. I think I get dizzy.
Like the Super Monkey Ball, and like you just told me, and I realized where that idea came from, Super Monkey Ball, because I was wondering like, why did they put him in a ball? Oh, okay. There's no that. I actually like how I never thought about how much the ball changes the game, because usually as Crash you can control where you land, where you jump. When you're in the ball, the physics kind of take a hold from themselves, and luckily the game actually has excellent physics. Like so I think if the game didn't have good physics, the ball sections wouldn't work at all. They'd be broken. Regarding the crunch boss battles in this game are amazing, because each domain of levels, or like each section of levels, has its own different elemental mask, and every time you fight Crunch, he uses a different elemental mask. So the first time he had the rock, the rock boss battle where he turns to a big boulder. The second one where he has the water mask, he turns into this water demon that just shoots like lasers at you. The third one is like he's like this big, like he's like the Thing from Fantastic Four, where like
that was the worst one.
Oh my god. He chucks rocks at you, like. And the fourth one I think is the best one, where he's cool. That air demon, that sky demon, and you have to fight him with the plane.
I had a lot of trouble with that first
so
playthrough.
Hard, like but like the way like each of them look, the atmosphere of each boss battle, I loved. Like it really added. It really was like because like the game, the best parts of the game is like the environments and like the atmosphere, and those boss battles really took it to like the heights. I thought all those boss battles were even better than the last one.
Yeah. So you guys think that having Crunch as a boss throughout is was a good idea? Because in the other games you have Dingle Dial or Engine or even Cortex himself. So what are your thoughts on that?
I loved having that kind of like arc for Crash, because you realize that Crunch is under Cortex's control. So you're fighting him at every like point of the game, and then at the end, like he loses his control, and everyone like is chilling by the campfire, like, oh man, guys, I'm sorry, I was mean to you throughout the whole game. I thought it was kind of cool, but like I think it's like less than like they're trying to like destroy each other. It was like kind of like a Goku Vegeta kind of thing. Like Crash needed someone to fight because Cortex was too much of a wimp. So but I thought it was cool. Like in the story, it was funny.
Yeah, Cortex is a great heel. He has his other people do the work. He's just the manager that takes all the bumps. So yes, that's it. Yes. He's like Bobby Heenan and Paul Heyman of the Crash games.
Yes,
that's a great point. He really is the Paul Heyman. Like Crunch is like Lesnar. I think that's what makes this game so unique. Is like as Peter, as you said in the other games, like each boss battle was different, but in this game, the main enemy is Crunch because Cortex is trying to kill you by creating another thing like you, except he's bigger. So the odds appear stacked against Crash, but he has Coco and Aku Aku. So I felt like this game was so simple. Like the simplicity of the game is.
You know what I think? I think Crunch was a good boss. He's a good looking boss. He looks tough and mean. Why not just put Crash and Crunch in the new Smash Brothers? What are we doing here? Crash is already on Nintendo, so that's not an issue. So let's get him in Smash already.
Wait, Crash is in Smash?
He's not in Smash.
He's not. Oh
no.
Not yet.
He was I think he was in that corny PlayStation All-Stars game, I think.
Yeah, that's probably why they can't put him in Smash, because he was kind of like in the competition, you can't switch brands.
But now all the Crash is ubiquitous. The Activision, they ain't tied down to one, company. They work with everybody. So
that's
just
true.
get him in Smash already. I don't know. What the big
I
deal is.
wouldn't mind playing Crash Warped or Wrath of Cortex on the Switch. I wouldn't mind that. I mean, screw it.
I mean, the first three, the remasters for the first three games are on the Switch too. So fuck it.
Yeah, like Apex Legends is coming to the damn Switch. So why not?
Yeah, everything's on the Switch now. So why the fuck that? So what do you guys think about Crash in the mech?
Oh, I like those levels. I thought they were really interesting.
I hate those levels, to be honest. But what are you guys' thoughts? I'll tell you what.
Well,
I think after.
I mean, Crash always worked as a platformer, and I always felt like when it got gimmicky, it was still Crash, but like it's like putting Sonic in a car. You're just doing it for the gimmick. Like Crash could jump and spin and he could do like kick flips and stuff like that. He could defend himself. Why put him in a mech? He could probably be better off without it. It's probably just gonna get destroyed and you're gonna flip out of it and keep going anyways.
That's exactly what happens. Like all the time. Actually, you don't even crash. Like literally, you like the mech levels. Now that I think about it, like you're as the mech, and then there's one point where the mech explodes and Crash just jumps out.
Yeah, and that's when the game gets fun.
You don't crash because you are Crash.
Yeah, right. But I
like
think
the Jeep levels. The Jeep levels I like.
Jeep levels are popping. Yeah, I love the Jeep levels.
Because like it added like because like the environments were so cool to drive in, and plus like Crash games other than Nitro Kart have had great. Other than Nitro Kart and Tag Team Racing have had great.
Like literally 2 years before Wrath of Cortex, CTR was out, and CTR is one of the best racing games. Period. Yeah. Well, no, not even just Crash. Like one of the best racing games. Like it's that and Mario Kart. Those are the best racing games. At least all the wacky arcade ones. But the wacky arcade racers are the most fun. The Sims are okay. Gran Turismo, Forza is fine. Good. Yeah, Forza's cool.
Forza's great.
Yeah, Forza is probably one of the best racing sims. But so driving mechanics in a Crash game is not totally foreign. So I think it worked very well. Like the Jeep levels are really, really cool. But the mech shit, it was the aiming was always off. It was very sloppy. You really have to. It's annoying having an aneurysm.
It was pretty broken.
Yeah, and when you have to jump, you gotta jump over, and it's always very clunky. And you jump straight up, and then you have the forward jump. And then sometimes you miss time, and then you run into a nitro crate, and that's it. You make one roll, and then there was one level I think in the last area where there's like a fireball that comes at you, and you have to run in the fucking mech. You have to run in the mech, and it's the worst. But that's the worst.
Yeah, they really put you through it. They put you
Yeah,
through it, man.
Like the game had a lot of different ideas, and I think that was
Yeah.
probably the only one that didn't really work. I thought the plane sections were kind of cool.
The planes were cool. Yeah.
Yeah, Coco has her own spaceship level where instead of a plane, she's in a spaceship.
Yeah.
Like
But those levels are always like they're like here and there. They're here and then they're gone. It's like it's very simple, right to the point, because you're not playing Crash for that. I think they're just trying to toy with things, like experimenting with ideas, which I respect. And this game is more dense than I remembered because there's a lot of different elements to the game. No pun intended, a lot of elements to the game that are interesting. But what do you guys think about the power ups? Because after each elemental mask you take over, you gain a power up. The first one, you get the sneak shoes, which are great for the nitro crates, and then the double jump, and then the spin, the double spin, and then the bazooka, and then the speed shoes. What do you guys think about that whole thing?
I don't think it was fair to Crash. Like Crash gets all these simple things, jumps, flips, slides, and then the enemies are getting like elemental power-ups, like shooting fire and rocks at you. Like, like it's awesome. Like when you get like the power-ups from Aku Aku and you become invincible, you can just run through everything. That's like Crash's superpower. But it would be kind of cool to see like what would happen if it was more balanced out. Like the enemies be throwing weird things at you, and then you get like, okay, I'm just gonna jump over here and spin to the side and dodge it. That's how I'm gonna do it. So it was kind of cool to see that Crash got his own powers and like Crunch got his own powers. You know what I mean?
Like I thought it was pretty cool how like it kept you guessing as to what kind of power up you would unlock. Like even to this day I always forget. Oh wait, you get like a super death tornado. And like you get like I always forget about the bazooka thing. Like I thought that was pretty cool. Like it would have been cool to see a lot of those power-ups or those powers that you unlock in a game like Twinsanity that had a lot more open levels where you can it would be cool if you can have like sections where if Crash is sneaking into a room that has like a sleeping freaking bear or something, you need sneak shoes to get to a certain crate. Like it would have been cool to see power-ups like that in a more open Crash game like Twinsanity, but I did like how they were used in Wrath of Cortex.
Yeah, I think I liked how Wrath of Cortex kind of laid a foundation for possible future experimentations with the Crash game. Like, especially, I always think about the bazooka, right? And how that could have been used or evolved in future games. But I think like the latest Crash, the Crash 4, which is fucked up because I think Wrath of Cortex is Crash 4. But
it is Crash 4.
Yeah.
Idiots were burying their own game while promoting this one.
I don't get it. But anyway, like I think that the bazooka was really cool. The bazooka and the mech was the worst shit in the world. But when you had Crash, you had the bazooka, it was awesome. It was great. It almost became unfair after you learned the game, especially probably my favorite level in the whole game is Gold Rush on the last area. That level it's the longest level. And it has like 200 some odd crates in there, and it's
that's
so
the level
cool.
They show like in the loading screen,
they show
the game. Like when you leave it idle, that's the level they show.
Yeah, and that level you get to test out the bazooka very efficiently. Yeah, there was a lot of different elements in this game that made it cool. Besides the power-ups, the riding in the cart and everything like that. Being in the monkey ball and
just the water level. That's kind of like
the submarine.
Water levels.
Yeah, the water levels are really good.
Water levels.
Yeah, like playing as Crash just swimming was kind of like challenging and a little slightly clunky, but it was fine. Because you're underwater, so it felt like you were underwater. Yeah, so.
Yeah, man. I liked it. Actually, I even enjoyed the submarine sections.
That's my favorite parts in the underwater.
Yeah, it's like it's so scary how you're just this like little guy like in swimwear trying to dodge all these giant sharks and you get a submarine. Oh, thank God. Okay.
And then people are underwater like shooting missiles at you. Like how does that even work?
The asshole with like the fucking harpoon. And that's it. Yeah, I hate that. I hate that guy. But then when you hit the missile on him, forget it. Game over.
Yeah, man.
And you get the little bomb. Yeah, it was great. I loved writing that. That was a lot of fun. So the elemental masks. What do you guys think about those guys?
It was interesting, like to see like what kind of what kind of mask exists, because you're helped by a mask, and like Cortex has a mask, but then there are other masks too. So it's kind of like interesting game design because they have an effect on the environment. And if like the enemy has control of one of the masks, then they're probably going to be using that kind of attack at you. It was interesting to see how it worked and how it created the world. I always thought that was kind of cool that they have like different masks doing different things. It's funny too to see them all talking.
I think like because Crash 4 does what I think Wrath of Cortex could have done better. Like in Crash 4, there's a lot of different masks you can use as powers. It would have been cool after you beat an elemental mask, Crash can go back to some of those levels and collect an ice mask and do certain things you couldn't do before. I think Wrath of Cortex probably would have done that better. Even though I love what Crash 4 does, but those ideas were really cool back then.
Yeah, and I think that this game has a ridiculous amount of replayability because you have to get all the crystals. That's like the base requirement. But then if you want to unlock those bonus levels, you got to get the relics. You get to get some of the relics. And in that bonus area that you get after you beat the game, those levels are like 10 times as harder. And there's a lot more you have to do. You have to have a certain amount of, the relics are not easy to get too. Imagine like speed running through one of the hardest levels. It's crazy. So I guess lastly, like, where would you rank Wrath of Cortex against the other Crashes, including the new one?
It's in the top tier for me. I feel like Wrath of Cortex was such a jump from the games that came before in terms of like graphics and like game design. It's such a beautiful game, and I feel like it sits in like the right niche of it's a difficult Crash game, but like it's not too hard, and it's also like very, very like pleasing to play. Like even if you die a million times, you kind of appreciate like how the level looks, and you kind of just want to keep playing it anyways. So it's up there for me. I don't really like to number it, but it's top tier.
That's fine.
I really say like one of the only games, other than Warped, Warped always have a special place in my heart. But other than Warped, one of the only Crash games I can say it's better than Wrath of Cortex is Twinsanity. It's really only because of creativity, but yeah, Wrath of Cortex is really, it kind of like before Twinsanity came, it kind of celebrated everything that was good about Crash Bandicoot.
Yeah, and I think it's like not in any normal order, but Wrath of Cortex, Twinsanity, and Crash 4. Those are the best ones. Even though Wrath of Cortex is Crash 4, I don't care what anyone says. But those three, the recent Crash, Twinsanity, and Wrath of Cortex, those are the best ones.
Like I like I said again, I love Crash 4, but one thing I love that Wrath of Cortex does better, I love the simplistic design of it. Like I kind of think, I don't know, it's probably a personal thing. Crash 4, everything looks so shiny. Am I the only one that notices that?
It's very shiny, yeah.
Yeah, like I don't know. I kind of like the simplistic look of Wrath of Cortex. You see, like you can tell, like his fur looks more like fur instead of like it looks kind of like an action figure.
Twinsanity takes the cake in terms of like game design and music for me because it's such like it's so artsy, like everything is so different from like how Crash used to look, but it still feels like a Crash game and it sounds like a Crash game just like with vocalized like music. It's bizarre, but it's
and the
really,
score was kind of doo-woppy. It was really cool.
Yeah, like it was mostly it was mostly vocals in the music. That was so cool. Like
yeah, Pentatonics can't hold a candle to the voices on the
Twinsanity soundtrack takes the cake.
Oh yeah.
Oh my. Well, I'm just one man. They had like a lot of people.
Yeah. All right. It's My Little Underground. Thank you guys for coming on, talking about 20 years of Wrath of Cortex. This game is very fond to us, and yeah, I still got to beat Crash 4. All right.
Good luck out there.
Yeah. Wait. You guys should plug your stuff. You guys have music out, so.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
You can listen to my music at richardariaga.bandcamp.com. That's ARRIAGA.bandcamp.com.
You can find me on smileyarriaga.bandcamp.com. That's Smiley ARRIAGA. Yeah.
All right, guys. Thanks a lot for coming on.
Thanks for having us.